Hello, so today we're talking about something that's very important in persuasion, and that's called the counter-argument. A counter-argument is also called a counterclaim or a rebuttal, and this is basically when you think ahead and imagine what the other side, the other person, might say to argue with your point, and you kind of call them out on it and use it against them before they even have a chance to argue with you. It is very important when you're trying to persuade someone to agree with you or do what it is that you want them to do. So this is something you want to really make sure you get the hang of. Try this. Imagine that you are a parent this time. You're not the kid, you are the parent. And your child, your 8-year-old, let's say, young kid, is asking for a cell phone. Why might you as the parent tell them no, they can't have one? You might be able to think back to your personal experience and think about why your parents told you no when you were younger. But think about it just for a minute. Pause the video, see if you can jot down a list, or just think of any reasons you can that you as the parent might say, no, I'm not buying you a cell phone. I am betting that on your list you had at least some of these ideas, and you probably came up with way more than I did. One reason a parent might say no is that it's too expensive. They might say you don't really need it. They might tell you you'll just use it for games. They might tell you it will keep you awake at night. They might say they don't want you using social media. They might say you won't take care of it and you're just going to break it. All of those are things that the parent might say to the child asking for the phone. So if you're a kid and you really want your parent to buy you that cell phone, you would want to kind of predict these things ahead of time and be prepared with what you're going to say back when your parents tell you these things. So what does this all have to do with persuasion? Well, the best persuasion includes the counter arguments. If you're the 8-year-old, you want to make that list and be prepared so that when your parents say no to you for those reasons, you already have proof and you're going to come right back at them before they can even argue with you. So if we look at this example, here are those reasons that we came up with for why your parents are going to say no. Here are some things that you might use as your counter argument and say to them in order to convince them to still agree with you, in order to prove your parents wrong. So mom or dad says, no, I'm not getting you a phone, it's too expensive. You might come back with, actually, it will only add $10 a month to the bill, and I will pay for that out of my allowance. Well, that kind of takes their argument out of play. It's really not too expensive then, is it? They might say, no, I'm not buying you a phone because you're not going to take care of it. You might come back at them and say, well, I've had my expensive game system for 5 years and I haven't broken or damaged that. That's a good counter argument. They might tell you the phone is just going to keep you awake at night. You might come back at them and say, well, I will charge my phone in the kitchen and not my bedroom so that it doesn't keep me awake. That takes that argument out of play. They might tell you they don't want you to be on social media or use the phone for too many games. You might come back with the argument that they can set parental controls on a phone to prevent them from using inappropriate games or social media. And finally, they might say, I'm not buying you a phone because you don't need it. You might come back at them and say, well, there are actually many educational apps used in my classroom, and I could communicate with you when I'm at a friend's house. Those are 2 good reasons that you need the phone. So you see, you kind of take what you're predicting the other side is going to say, and you already have good arguments prepared to prove them wrong. That's the whole idea of a counter-argument. And a good counter-argument can be really, really powerful. When you're writing a counter-argument rather than speaking it, some really good sentence starters are, you might think, however, for example, you might think phones are too expensive, however, it will only add $10 per month to the bill and I will pay for it out of my allowance. Another good one is, some people believe, but, for example, some people believe that cell phones keep kids awake at night, but if the phone is charged in a different room, the phone will not keep a child awake. So those are just some good examples and sentence starters you can use if you're writing anything persuasive. So your job for today is to watch these 2 videos on your own and then fill in this chart. When you're done filling in this chart, you'll click the Submit button in Canvas and your finished for today and you're good to go. In this chart, I have listed 4 arguments about different topics. Your job is simply to fill in the counter argument. So I did the first one as an example for you. It says students should wear uniforms so that everyone follows the school dress code. A counter argument to that might be that wearing uniforms keeps students from showing their individuality. So you're going to do these other 3 examples on your own. I'll read the arguments out loud to you, and your only job is to fill in the counter argument side and then click submit, and then you're done. Kids should be able to drive at 14 because that's when you can get a work permit. So you're going to think about the other side of that argument and write one good reason why kids should not be able to drive at 14. The next one says students should not be able to buy junk food at school because it is unhealthy. You're going to think of the counter argument and think of why we should be allowed to buy junk food at school. The last one says schools should not take students on field trips because students do not learn as much as they do on a regular school day. So you're going to think of the counter argument or the good reason why we should take students on field trips. So again, you're watching these 2 videos and then filling in your chart, and you're completely done for today. Don't forget to click submit. Have a great day.